Welcome back. Today, we're stepping into the shoes of a chief flight instructor. We're going to treat this material exactly like a real exam, because out there in the skies, precision isn't just nice to have, it's absolutely critical for survival. We're looking at FAR/AIM section 61.109. This is the exact aeronautical experience required for a private pilot certificate, specifically for an airplane's single-engine land rating. We're going to cover this without missing a single detail because every hour listed here is a legally binding standard you've got to meet.
Here's the flight plan for today's explainer. We're hitting the core certification requirements, breaking down the 20 hours of dual instruction, looking at the 10 hours of solo flight training, and finishing up with the perfect oral exam preparation.
All right, starting with Section 1, Core Certification Requirements. Let's look at the big picture first.
40. I really want you to let that number sink in. 40 hours is your absolute baseline. It's the legal minimum of total flight time required before you can even think about applying for that private pilot certificate. Now, I've got to be totally transparent with you here. While 40 hours is the regulatory minimum, it's really the absolute floor of experience. But for our purposes today, everything we discuss fits perfectly into or builds up to this foundational 40-hour block.
So how do we actually break down those 40 hours? Well, it splits into two main operational buckets. On one side, you've got a minimum of 20 hours of dual instruction. That's guided learning, sitting side by side with your instructor, mastering the mechanics. On the flip side, you need a minimum of 10 hours of solo flight time. That's you acting as the sole pilot in command. Now, if you do the math, 20 plus 10 is 30. That leaves you with 10 hours of flex time. That remaining time can be a mix of dual or solo, completely tailored to smooth out your own specific skills before check ride day.
Moving right along to Section 2, Dual Instruction, let's dive into exactly what makes up those 20 hours.
I want you to anchor your attention right here on this mandatory 20 hours. And the phrasing here is absolutely crucial. This training has to be received from an authorized instructor. We're not talking about casually flying around with a buddy who happens to have a license. No, this is highly documented, syllabus-driven instruction. It's designed to build those rock-solid safety habits under expert, watchful eyes.
Inside those 20 hours, there are specific 3-hour blocks you absolutely have to knock out. First up, 3 hours of cross-country flight training, learning how to navigate safely from point A to point B. Second, 3 hours of instrument flight training. This is a lifesaver, ensuring you can fly solely by reference to your instruments if you ever accidentally punch into a cloud. And third, you need 3 hours of test preparation. Now pay close attention to this strict deadline. That test prep must happen within 2 calendar months before your check ride. It guarantees your skills are razor sharp when you finally meet the examiner.
We also have another 3-hour block tucked inside your dual instruction. And let me tell you, examiners absolutely love to test on this. We're talking about the 3 hours of night flight training. Flying at night is a whole different ballgame. It introduces serious visual illusions and demands a totally elevated level of spatial awareness.
Let's exhaustively break down exactly what has to happen in the dark. You've got to complete one cross-country flight that covers over 100 nautical miles in total distance. On top of that, you need 10 takeoffs and 10 landings. And here is the kicker, something you absolutely must emphasize to your examiner: those 10 landings have to be to a full stop. Touch and goes, they simply don't count here. Your depth perception is severely compromised at night, so the FAA wants solid proof that you've mastered the energy management needed to bring that plane to a complete, safe stop.
Okay, Section 3, Solo Flight Training. Let's switch gears and talk about that 10-hour solo minimum.
You've got to log a minimum of 10 hours of solo flight time. Honestly, this is where a pilot's confidence is genuinely forged. It's one thing to nail a steep turn when your instructor is sitting right next to you, but it's an entirely different level of mastery to pull it off perfectly when you are the only soul on board.
Now, exactly half of that solo time, 5 hours, has to be strictly dedicated to solo cross-country flight. This is your chance to prove to the examiner that you're not just comfortable doing laps in the traffic pattern at your home airport. It shows you can independently navigate across the map, manage your fuel, and adapt to whatever the weather throws at you, all without anyone holding your hand.
What's really fascinating here is how the FAA structures your long solo cross-country flight. It's perfectly designed to build up your endurance. Out of those 5 hours, you have to complete one very specific demanding flight. Step 1. It has to be a total distance of at least 150 nautical miles. Step 2. You must make full-stop landings at 3 different airports along the route. And Step 3. At least one leg of this journey must be a straight-line distance of at least 50 nautical miles between takeoff and landing. It's a brilliant setup because it forces you to plan a complex route, juggle different airspaces, and sustain your focus for a long haul.
The final requirement inside those 10 solo hours is all about communication. You need to knock out 3 solo takeoffs and 3 solo landings at an airport with an operating control tower. Look, talking to air traffic control can be super intimidating when you're starting out, but by mandating this, the FAA guarantees you have successfully and independently managed complex radio comms in a busy, controlled environment.
Finally, we arrive at Section 4, Perfect Oral Exam Preparation. It's time to take everything we've just covered and tie it all together into one seamless package.
I highly recommend you take a mental snapshot of this, or even pause right here and commit this exact phrase to memory. When that examiner asks you about your aeronautical experience, I want you to look them dead in the eye and say, for a private pilot certificate under FAR 61109, I need at least 40 hours total time, including 20 hours dual instruction and 10 hours solo. The training includes night, cross-country, instrument, and check ride prep requirements, plus solo cross-country and towered airport operations. That right there, that is a flawless, completely authoritative answer.
So the big takeaway here is that truly knowing the rules is your very first step to mastering the skies. You now have the exact, unyielding rubric for your aeronautical experience. Every single hour you log is a deliberate step towards your certification. So take this stable framework, review it, trust it, and hold yourself to the exacting standards of a pilot in command. I'll leave you with this final challenge. Open up your logbook today, match it against this exact structure, and ask yourself honestly, are you thoroughly prepared for your check ride?